Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. So we are currently in the midst of the NBA playoffs. And while all of the series pretty much 2 games in, you're starting to get a sense of how these series are going to go. Or you're starting to get a sense of, what are the strengths for these playoff teams or what are the weaknesses? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through every series. And while I'm not going to break down the entire series, because like I said, all these series are pretty much 2 games in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the glaring things that we're seeing out of all the series. And let's start with Jordan Poole, man. Golden State seems to always find themselves with a great problem to have. And right now, that problem is Jordan Poole. Now, not in the sense of, Jordan Poole is a legit problem. No. Well, not for Golden State. Jordan, first of all, shouts out to all the award finalists, the most valuable player, defensive player of the year. I know Marcus Smart did win that. Shouts out to him. I probably would have gave it to Giannis, but hey, Giannis didn't even finish in the top 3. But shouts out to Marcus Smart for being the first guard since I think Gary Payton to win it, and I think third guard ever because I know Jordan won. Most improved. I don't think they've officially said who won, but I know it's Darius Garland, DeJounte Murray, and John Morant. And that's kind of where, again, shouts out to all the award finalists for, Coach of the Year, all the awards. But I don't see how Jordan Poole wasn't even a finalist. That is crazy to me. But let's talk about what we're seeing in this Golden State Denver series. Right now, Golden State is leading 2-0, and it hasn't really been close either one of the 2 games. Now, to shoot Denver some bail, both of the first games were in Golden State, and Denver, of course, is still. And I told you guys, and people don't really understand this until you understand it or until you see it live. You can go an entire regular season. You can go an entire season, regular season, without having stars, especially if you have a star. In the sense of Denver, you have Nikola Jokic, who could possibly win his 2nd straight MVP. But when you get to the playoffs, there's a reason why, one, Denver is a 6th seed. Even with the possible MVP, they're the 6th. They came into the playoffs as a 6th seed. When you don't have Jamal Murray, when you don't have Michael Porter Jr., it's tough, man. It's tough because you're going up against a team that is now firing on all cylinders. Yes, you don't have James Wiseman, but they're firing on all cylinders. Golden State Golden State was down 12 points. Golden State was down 12 points in game 2 and went on a 26 to 4 run like in like an instant. So it's just like, it's tough. It's tough when Golden State is shooting the lights out. When you have Steph going crazy, when you have Klay Thompson going crazy, and now you have Jordan Poole, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm watching this series, and one, I feel bad for Denver because you're thrusting people into positions that they're not used to being in. They didn't expect to be in, like a Bryn Forbes. I know he didn't expect to guard a hot Steph Curry or a hot Jordan Poole. He didn't expect that. Will Barton has to take 10, 15 shots a game. That's not ideal, especially when you're trying to win. And honestly, man, I think it would be different, of course, if Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray were there. Of course, you can. I'm not gonna say you can match firepower with Golden State, but you actually now you have your best scorer who can put the ball on the ground in Jamal Murray, and you have your pretty much second best scorer that can put the ball on the ground. Now, am I saying that they are both better players than Nikola Jokic? No. When we're talking about scores, I will take Jamal Murray and slightly Michael Porter Jr. over Nikola Jokic as far as scoring. So you need that in a series when you're going up against the hottest team in the league. Now let's go over to Golden State real quick. Like I said before, Golden State has a good problem. A problem that Golden State always seems to find themselves in good problems. I guess that's a sign of a good organization. But the good problem that they have right now is Jordan Poole. So Steph gets hurt, has a sprained ligament, and he misses, I think, the last couple weeks of the season. Jordan Poole has been going crazy this entire year, whether it's been in replacement of Steph Curry or whether it's been in replacement of Klay Thompson until Klay Thompson came back. So now you get to the playoffs, and boy, Jordan Poole is going crazy. I think he scored like 59 points in his first two playoffs, which I think is the most by any player in their first two playoff performances. Golden State, and this is all, of course, coming with Steph Curry coming off the bench. Steph Curry was like, Jordan Poole is playing well. Let me come off the bench so I can get my rhythm. Steph Curry the other night dropped 34 off the bench. And I think he did it in like 24 minutes, which is the fewest minutes to score over 30 like ever in a playoff game. So I say that Golden State finds themselves having a great problem because what happens? What happens now when, all right, you're going to insert. So here's the dilemma. Steph Curry can't continuously come off the bench. He could, but that's going to just mess up the rotation. Steph Curry can't continue to come off the bench. However, Jordan Poole is hot right now, and you don't want to mess up that. I'm not going to say that chemistry because, of course, Steph, Klay, and Dre have chemistry and everything, but you don't want to mess that up. And while Jordan Poole has definitely said, I just want to impact the game and be positive for the team, it's different. It's a different mind state from being a starter to being, going back. Being a starter, being very successful as a starter, then going back to the bench. Yes, as a sixth man, we're going back to the bench. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Steph's going to have to start eventually. And a lot of people are saying, and I think Draymond Green even said it's like, Jordan Poole's going to have to start as well. Now, what you don't want to do, now I know every series is different. So when you're going up against Denver now, it's possible that you can start Steph, Klay, and Jordan Poole at the same time. Now, while that is a great lineup, that does cause problems for Golden State. And the problem that it causes is when you look at the bench, Jordan Poole was a huge component for bench scoring. And if you put him to the starting lineup, now who's your sixth man? Who would be Golden State sixth man? With Andre Iguodala being hurt and being older, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton, none of these players, especially offensively, can match the production that a Jordan Poole brings. So while, yes, Golden State looks incredible with a three-guard lineup that is Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, and Klay Thompson, it's going to be tough with the rotation. So that's why you don't really want to start off with the game or start the game off like that with every series. So Golden State finds themselves having a dilemma on their hands, man. Having a dilemma on their hands. So, but a good dilemma to have because it's not like you're searching for points. You're searching for good players. No, you need to figure out a way how to do this rotation without messing up the chemistry that Golden State has built. You don't want to destroy, Jordan Poole's confidence. But then again, you can't have Steph Curry come off the bench. So It's a good problem to have, man. And I will say this. Now I know that this is a this is a statement that I'm just gonna. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we need to start looking at Denver as one of those blow it up teams. We will talk about a team very shortly that is definitely in that blow it up mode, in my opinion. But Denver, I think what is holding Denver, let me say this. I think what is preventing Denver from pushing that blow it up button is the fact that Jamal Murray's hurt, is the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is hurt. And of course, you have Nikola Jokic, who is an MVP, reigning MVP, could possibly be two-time MVP. But even full strength, even with a healthy Jamal Murray, even with a healthy Michael Porter Jr., even with DeMarcus Cousins, even with Will Barton, even with Monte Morris, even with all these players, when you look at the landscape of the league, do you really think that Denver is good enough to compete for a championship? Now, yes, they are good enough to win a series. They are good enough to win maybe two series. But let's just look at this year's landscape. I don't see Denver beating Golden State. Even if they did somehow beat Golden State, I don't see Denver beating Memphis. I think Denver will be in a dogfight against Minnesota. And I definitely don't see Denver beating Phoenix. So it's like, that's just this year. You know, I just don't see a scenario, even, and that's just the West. I didn't say anything about, the Clippers getting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard back fully healthy. I didn't say anything about who else? Or New Orleans. If New Orleans can get Zion back, it's just gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough, and I'm not fully there to say blow it up for Denver because you want to know exactly how they are. They looked incredible in the bubble. You want to see how they are fully healthy again, but even fully healthy, in my opinion, I don't think Denver. I think Denver finds themselves as one of those teams that are just in the middle, too good, not in the middle. Slightly above the middle, but not at the top. Even though you have great players, I don't see Denver as one of those teams that are real championship caliber teams. I don't see Denver, even though they're coached great and everything, I just don't see it. And it's like at that point, what do? Do you want to stay there? Be too good to be a lottery pick or continuously win maybe a series or two? Or you're not bad enough to have a solid lottery pick. So what do you do? So I'm not quite there as to blow up Denver, but I think they're getting there. Let's go to the next or probably the second most exciting series right now, and definitely the best series out of all the series going on right now, and that is Boston and Brooklyn. Now, before we move forward, I will address the Kyrie Irving thing. Why did I say it like Kyrie Irving did something to me? I don't know. But of course, Kyrie Irving was going at it with the fans, and let me say this: the fans were going at it with Kyrie, and of course, he responded. He responded with, and a lot of people he's probably going to get fined. He probably already gotten fined. But I'm shooting this Tuesday evening, so he's probably already got fined. But it's basketball. People still don't understand, especially some fans. Just because you pay a ticket for admission, which is probably a very expensive ticket, if you can be an earshot of Kyrie Irving, probably an expensive ticket. That doesn't really give you the right to just spew tough rhetoric, hate rhetoric, spew some, call any athlete out their name. That doesn't really give you the right. And then don't be surprised when athletes react. They always say athletes should take the high road because they're the athletes. They make enough. They make all this money. This, that, and the third. But like, no, my G, you're not about to just talk to me no tight way. So I don't have a problem with the whole Kyrie Irving flipping the bird at the fans that were, calling out his name and everything. I ain't got no problem with it. And Kyrie Irving went crazy game 2. Kyrie Irving went crazy game 1. Like that's just how it was. Let's talk about the game. Boston won game 1 in a spectacular fashion. They were winning handedly. Brooklyn came back and took like a double-digit lead, and Boston came back. KD struggled the entire game. And the last play, he kind of got caught ball watching. Jason Tatum back cut pretty much. Got the ball, did a spin move on Kyrie and did it at the buzzer. This has been an exciting series, and it's only, after tonight, it'll only be 2 games in. But the same thing that the same reason why I said I don't expect Brooklyn to come out the West or come out the East is exactly what we're seeing in this series. You need both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant to be incredible, or you really have no shot. Andre Drummond was playing well, but he got in foul trouble. Seth Curry wasn't really reliable. Patty Mills, I don't even remember him playing. Gordon Dragic was all right, but he it's Nick Claxton. He gives you energy, but he's missing free throws. It's hard to expect 2 players to carry. Now, I heard a lot of. I said this last episode, and I heard a lot of people say, "Well, these aren't average 2 players." Correct. Kyrie Irving and KD are not your average 2 players. They're not your average, run-of-the-mill players. These are bona fide superstars. I mean, you have people that call Kyrie the most skilled player of all time, and you have people that have KD in their top 10 players of all time. So I understand that they're not your average stars, you know what I mean? So they can give you 50 to 60, or they can give you 40 to 50 every night. That's not the issue. The issue is that's what they need to do to win. There's a difference between getting 50 and 60, and it's like, oh, shoot, all right, we got it. But when you need to do that to win, think about this. Kyrie Irving probably played one of the best games he's played all season. Now he has a 60-point game. He has a couple 50-point games. Kyrie Irving played incredible game 1. Kevin Durant did not. Kevin Durant had like 23 points. I know he was struggling from the field. He had 6 turnovers, and they lost. Now, yes, they lost at the buzzer, but they lost. It's like you need both of them to play perfect, or you have no shot. Now, don't get me wrong. They can still come out of this series. I still think that they have a great possibility of beating Boston this series. Because, again, Boston losing Robert Williams, which looked like he could possibly come back soon, was huge. But even still, I mean, it's going to be hard. It's a toss-up. When everyone's fully healthy, let me not say that because we still know about Ben Simmons, who's supposed to be coming back. Who knows? But in this iteration of Brooklyn, it's still a toss-up because it's hard for me to see Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving go out first round or predict that they go out first round. But what I will say is, moving forward, I don't see them because of how they have to win. I cannot imagine them winning the East. Because they're banking a lot on Ben Simmons this year, which we have not seen him this year. So I don't know, man. But like I said, we're seeing it from Brooklyn. We're seeing if the 2 superstars do not play well and play, let me not even say well, because Kevin Durant didn't play bad. He had a bad first half, but he didn't finish bad. If they don't play great, Kyrie Irving played great. But shouts out to Charles Barkley. He says it all the time. they both have to play great or they're not winning. And why is that? People ask, why is that? Well, that's because this team is not good enough defensively to allow their defense to carry them to a win. Golden State, we just talked about. Golden State, of course, is known for shooting threes, known for their explosive offense. Well, I think they're like the second-ranked defense or something like that in the league. So even if Steph Curry, Klay Thompson's not hitting on all cylinders, their defense can carry them to a win. Boston has been, probably since All-Star break, they've been arguably the best defensive team by far this series. This season. So even if Jason Tatum's not playing well, Jaylen Brown's not playing well offensively, they still have their defense that can carry them to a win. Brooklyn does not have that. Brooklyn doesn't have a defensive-minded player that can really keep them afloat. Not even just a player. They're just not good defensively. So you need your offense to carry them. Well, if you look at their team, while they have big names, while they have a Blake Griffin, while they have a LaMarcus Aldridge, while they have a Seth Curry, while they have an Andre Drummond, while they have a Goran Dragic, they have not been good enough to allow a KD and a Kyrie to lean on them if they're not. Bruce Brown's been all right, but they have none of the players that are just a hell. I don't remember the last time I seen Blake Griffin play. They have not been good enough to allow Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to have a pedestrian game. And that is tough when you're in the playoffs, especially when you're the lower seed, which is the 7th seed, and you're going against a team like Boston that is incredible defensively. I mean, hell, they have the defensive player of the year now in Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart was even hitting threes. I think he had like 16, 18 points or something like that. So it's going to be tough. It's hard for me. It's tough. I'm in a very tough spot. It's hard for me to know what I know about basketball and to know what I know about how teams work. In the same breath, also know who the hell Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are. And so it's hard for me to pick this series because it's like, if I'm speaking logically, it's hard for me not to. How am I going to go against Boston? They're the better team. They're playing better. They're the higher seed. They play better defense. They play better team ball. Jason Tatum is on another level right now. Jaylen Brown's on another level right now. Marcus Smart is finally hitting threes in his career. Like, how would I bet against that? But then again, how do I bet against two players in Kyrie Irving and KD that can give you 50 each a night? So it's tough. And we've seen them get 50 each a night. So it's tough. It's tough. But that has been an exciting series. I'm going to game 2 tonight, actually. So, we'll see how it goes. But that's what I'm seeing from that series. Let's go to Philly and Toronto. Philly is currently leading the series 2-0. First of all, it sucks, man. Injuries always affect the playoffs. Like, for people that say this is a new thing, injuries always affect the playoffs. I mean, even in the bubble, almost every team that both the Lakers and Miami faced had a player that was out, a key player that was out. And even in the finals, I think Bam was out a couple games. And Goran Dragic. Injuries always play a part. And injuries are playing a huge part, in my opinion, in the Philly and Toronto series. I mean, yes, he's a rookie. But there's a reason why Scotty Barnes not only is a finalist for Rookie of the Year, but a lot of game 1, he was guarding, or they tasked him to guard James Harden. Scotty Barnes is incredible. Now, I don't think they've been getting smacked. That is Toronto. They've been getting smacked these first two games. I don't think that just losing Scotty Barnes is that big, but it is big. Not to mention the fact that nobody could have seen Tyrese Maxey going crazy like he's going. Tyrese Maxey has been playing better. Now, granted, it's only been 2 games, but has been playing better these playoffs than James Harden's been playing. Now, man. Shouts out to Tyrese Maxey, man. Watching this man at Kentucky, I could never have imagined him to be playing out of his mind like this. I don't know if it's because he's been paired with James Harden and he's kind of getting the best out of him. Like I kind of feel that way for Jordan Poole too. Now, I mean, we saw the reports that he was pretty much 1 foot out the door as far as in the league. Like he needed to improve, but I do think that when you're alongside great players like a Steph Curry, like a Klay Thompson, they take you under your wing. It's like, hey, this is how it goes. This is what you need to work on. Let's work on it. And now you're seeing Jordan Poole go crazy. Tyrese Maxey, he's been great this whole season. Don't get me wrong. He's been great this whole season, seeing as though he had to get thrust into the starting lineup or starting point guard position because of the whole Ben Simmons situation. But his offensive output has skyrocketed since James Harden's been there. And I don't think that's coincidence. But shouts out to Tyrese Maxey, man. I think one of my dark horse picks or dark horse upsets was, of course, Philly and Toronto, because I thought Toronto was going to play better. They haven't. And while it doesn't, now I know it's only 2 games in, and of course Philly did what they were supposed to do and win both home games. Toronto just doesn't really. It doesn't feel like they are good enough to match up with this Philly team. Now, I do want to see what they look like with going to Toronto and Matisse Thybulle not playing, but Tobias Harris is hitting threes like crazy. It's going to be tough, and Philly is in a different spot than Toronto. Toronto does not have. Well, everyone says they have championship aspirations. If you ask New Orleans Pelicans, they have championship aspirations, but it's just I don't see. It's for Philly. It's different. Philly, they have to have championship aspirations. When you have the potential MVP and Joel Embiid, and you trade Ben Simmons, you trade Seth Curry, you trade Andre Drummond to get James Harden. So you have championship aspirations. So while no one's going to blink an eye if Toronto, I don't know, wins this series but then loses the next series to whoever they play. But that's not the case for Philly. Philly has to win a championship, or at least get to a championship. Like anything else does not justify the move that they make getting James Harden, and they know that. So, shouts out Tyrese Maxey. He's been incredible. Shouts out to Philly. They've been good these first 2. They've been like gangbusters. And I think, hell, James Harden hasn't even been that good. Like he's been straight, but he hasn't been the James Harden that they need him to be. But that hasn't really affected them because Tyrese Maxey has been playing out of his mind. So shouts out to them. And it sucks for Toronto. I mean, Fred VanVleet's been playing good, but of course, it's a lot to ask for a smaller guard to lead you. Pascal Siakam's been all right, but the fouling discrepancy has been crazy. Like I think there was a time where Philly took like 28 free throws to Toronto's like 6. It's crazy. This has been the most physical round of playoff series. I will say that. But yeah, man, it's you're not going to look. No one's gonna bat an eye if Philly beats Toronto. Philly needs to get to a championship. They know that. Fans know that. Everyone knows that. They need to at least make it. If they don't win, they don't win, but at least make it there. So let's move forward. Let's talk about a series that there's not really much to talk about for Miami and Atlanta. At least the first 2 games, you're seeing exactly what we expect. You're seeing a team, and you're seeing a team that cannot be led by one person. And you can't see a team that's led by one person win against a team that not only has depth, but that is everyone is on a string. What do I mean by that? Atlanta this entire year. Now, losing Clint Capella was huge. Losing Clint Capella to the knee sprain, that was huge. That was or knee hyperextension. That was big because they don't have a pure center that can really dominate the paint like Clint Capella can as far as defensively. And you're going to need that going up against a Bam Adebayo. But when we talk about scoring, Atlanta only has one player that can consistently put the ball on the ground and get a bucket, and that player is Trey Young. Kevin Huerter is a good catch and shoot, and he might be able to put the ball on the ground and get a bucket maybe once or twice. Same for Bojan Bogdanovic. John Collins has been good. He's a good good like second player, but when we talk about, he did just come back from injury, but when we talk about someone that can consistently get the ball, put the ball on the ground and get a bucket, that is Trey Young. Now, Trey Young is great at it, but he's the only one on the team that can consistently do that. The problem is you're going up against Miami. That is one of the best defensive teams. That is one of the most rugged teams. And that can throw so many players at your small guard. Because Trey Young is a small guard. I mean, you look, they were throwing Trey Young around like a rag doll, man. And most of the time, anytime he drove, he hit the ground. Anytime he came off the screen, he met somebody else. Chest to chest. It was tough. I think Trey Young, Trey Young had the worst shooting percent or worst shooting night he's had as a pro, probably ever in life. I think he only had like 2 points or something like that. And that's one big reason I don't see. It's hard for me to see. I never really expected Atlanta to beat Miami. But I don't see this going longer than 4 or 5 games, because Miami can do that. Miami didn't even shoot that well outside of Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson was going crazy. I think he had like 8 threes. But outside of those two, they just destroyed them with defense. Kyle Lowry was going crazy defensively. Jimmy Butler was physical with Trey Young. And that's what they're going to do every single game. And while yes, you have John Collins and Trey Young, Atlanta doesn't have a solid 1-2 punch. Because John Collins is a good player, but he's not a 1-2 punch offensively. Let me say this. John Collins is a good offensive player. He's just not a player he's not like a, when we talk about 1-2 punches, Golden State has 3 of them. Brooklyn has 2. Boston has 2. Now, of course, I'm not putting John Collins in the same category as like the superstars, but Philly has 3 now. How Tyrese Maxey's been playing. Hell, Toronto has 2. Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. Atlanta has 1. And you're going up against a team that has several defensive-minded pieces that they can. they can throw a Jimmy Butler at Trey Young. They can throw a Kyle Lowry. They can throw a PJ Tucker. They can, and on top of that, now that they don't have to worry about Clint Capella catching lobs, and all you have to worry about is pretty much Bojan Bogdanovic, who is another guard, or have to worry about John Collins. You can just put Bam on John, and then neutralized. So it's just like, it's going to be tough for Atlanta, man. It's going to be tough for Atlanta. I don't know. Yeah, they might be able to win one, maybe even two in Atlanta, but I just don't see this series going longer than 6 games. So the Memphis and Minnesota series, you're seeing the future. You're seeing the future of the league. You're seeing John Morant and Anthony Edwards going crazy. Anthony Edwards, bro. Anthony Edwards has been great, bro. He's been great. God, Anthony Edwards is so good. John Morant's good too. Like I said, the league is in good hands. When we have young players like I said, Anthony Edwards, John Morant, Jordan Poole, Tyrese Maxey, like it's in good hands, man. Jason Tatum, Luka, it's in good hands, man. But I will say this. Now, I don't expect Memphis to lose this series. I don't expect that. Memphis has played too good. I just don't expect it. But when you line the playoffs, one of the biggest things about playoffs is about matchups. Which is why if you look at some of the Golden State and Cleveland series outside of 2016, it doesn't matter if you have the best player. Cleveland pretty much always had the best player because you had LeBron James. It was just a terrible, everyone in the league was pretty much a terrible matchup to Golden State when they had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. So when you look at Memphis and Minnesota, both these teams, they don't match up well with each other. As far as, let me say, Memphis does not match up well with Minnesota. Not saying that Memphis is going to lose the series, but they do not match up well. What do I mean by that? When you look at the positions, when you look at who's guarding who, Steven Adams cannot stay in front of Karl Anthony Towns. That's just not happening. Not happening. And Anthony Edwards has been abusing Dylan Brooks. And while Ja is great, you're putting a taller guard on him with D'Angelo Russell. Now, D'Angelo Russell did struggle game 1, but that didn't matter when you had Ant going for 30-something points, and you have Karl Anthony Towns having like a 26-17 game. Both these teams, Memphis does not match up well against Minnesota. Now, do I think that Minnesota is going to win? No. I just don't think they have the offensive. I mean, they can go through offensive lows. They can go through defensive lows and like bad. And we've seen Memphis go crazy. I mean, what you're now forcing is, because Steven Adams can't really stay in front of Karl Anthony Towns, you're going to have to put Jaren Jackson Jr. on Karl Anthony Towns. The problem is you can't get him in foul trouble. Like Jaren Jackson Jr. cannot get in foul trouble because they don't have another. You're going to have to put Brandon Clark. You're going to have to put him at the 4. It's just a bind. Memphis in a bind now. Again, I'm not picking Memphis to lose this series, but it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough because they just don't match up. When you look at these teams side by side, they do not match up. Memphis does not match up well with Minnesota, especially when we talk about the size. Now, Memphis is a better team, but Minnesota is tough. Ann has been incredible. John Morant has been incredible as well. I think that they need more from Desmond Baines. They need more from Dillon Brooks defensively, because he was all right offensively the first few games. It was just defensively he's been getting cooked by Anthony Edwards. So, but yeah, man, it's about matchups, man. And Memphis does not match up well with Minnesota. But I'm not Do not hear me say that and think that I'm picking Minnesota or Memphis to lose this series. Nah, I'm not. It's going to take some adjustments. And for the young team, you're going to see if they're able to make the adjustments in time. So let's move on. I don't need to say much about this series. And that is the Milwaukee and Chicago series. It doesn't. Again, I know there's only been, 2 games. But you're seeing a stark difference between Minnesota and Chicago. And there's no point in me sitting here harping on it. I've said this time and time again. Yes, the regular season is different from the playoffs, but you have to beat teams. You have to be able to beat top-tier teams. And Chicago has not beat a top-tier team this entire year. Now, again, the playoffs are different than the regular season. But the regular season, there's games when you get up for. Like Golden State always gets up for whenever they play Phoenix, because that is number 1 team. Or Milwaukee gets up for Phoenix because that was just the NBA Finals. Boston gets up for Philly in the regular season, because there's a very good possibility that they could see each other in the playoffs. Whenever Chicago played a good team, played a top-tier team in either conference, they lose. Now, you can say it's due to injury. You can say it's due to this, that, and the third. Well, this, that, and the third is here. And Milwaukee just looks better. Milwaukee is better than Chicago. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And both these teams look drastically different. I mean, there's a reason why, while yes, this is Zach LaVine's first playoff series, there's a reason why he looked terrible the first few games. There's a reason why DeMar DeRozan had one of his worst shooting nights in his career. I think he went 6 for 24 or something. I'd be surprised, man. I would be shocked if Chicago. Let me say this: if Chicago somehow makes it out this series, which there's no way in heaven and hell I can see that happening. If they do, I will come on here and say that I'm wrong. But I will be drastically shocked if they win. I'll be shocked if they win a game. I will be drastically shocked if they win 2. So that's that. Shouts out to Jalen Brunson, man. Let's move on to the Dallas and Utah series, man. Shouts out to Jalen Brunson. Hey, everyone needs a Jalen in their life. If you do not have a Jalen in your life is 10 times harder than it is with a Jalen in your life. What do I mean by that? Shouts out to Jalen Brunson for dropping a career high, 41 against Utah in Game 2, which now the series is tied 1-1. This has everything to do, in my opinion, with Utah than it has Dallas, because Dallas didn't have their best player in Luka Doncic with a calf strain, and we don't know if he's going to be here for Game 3. Y'all remember when, and this is why I said that this is mainly about Utah than is Dallas. Dallas is at home, was at home the first 2 games. But that doesn't matter. Dallas, Denver, Atlanta kind of find themselves in the same boat. They are led by one player, and everyone else pretty much is compliments to that player. If that player is not there, you know what I mean? Luka didn't play the first 2 games. Now, while, yes, Utah did win the first one, they didn't win the second one, and what you do not want... You want to handle business when you have a chance to handle business. And when you're going up against a team and playing the team that doesn't have their best player and arguably a top 5 player in the league, you need to handle business. Now, yes, on paper, you did what you were supposed to do. You still won it away. but you're acting like Dallas has their full roster. They don't have Luka Doncic. And you're now going 1-1. Now, yes, Utah can still win this series. In fact, if Luka, because apparently Luka hasn't even been able to run yet. So that's going to be tough, especially playing the Mile High. Especially playing in Utah. But like I said about Denver, I wholeheartedly think, how we talk about how we talked about the Trailblazers before they made the deal to trade CJ McCollum, and we said that it was probably a couple years too late. Yes, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum were great together, but we saw the ceiling. We saw the ceiling that was Damian Lillard playing with CJ McCollum. They're both incredible offensive guards. They both don't play a lick of defense, and we've seen it. They're pretty much, while Damian Lillard is better than CJ McCollum, they're pretty much a carbon copy of each other. We saw the ceiling when they went to the Western Conference Finals. Was it the Western Conference? Western Conference Finals, and I think got swept. And then outside of that, they kept losing first round after first round after first round after first round. It was like, while yes, they finally made the trade to get off of CJ McCollum, it was that should have happened a couple years prior. That's how I look at Utah. Yes, you have Donovan Mitchell. Yes, you have reigning sixth man of the year in Jordan Clarkson. Yes, you have defensive player of the year candidate seemingly every year in Rudy Gobert. But outside of that, man, like, what else? We've seen, in my opinion, we've seen the ceiling for Utah. With this current iteration. I don't think this team is good enough, even at full strength, is good enough to win a championship. I don't see them. There's a reason why they're the 5th seed. One, I don't see them beating a Phoenix. I don't see them beating a Golden State. I don't see them beating a Memphis. I don't see them beating, hell, it's going to be a dogfight against Minnesota. It'll be a dogfight against Denver. Utah should blow it up. I said it. Utah should blow it up. Not saying you don't get rid of Donovan Mitchell. You probably have to get rid of Rudy Gobert because it's like that's the only piece that you can really get something for. And while he's a great defender at the rim, he is a terrible, terrible defender out on the perimeter because he's too slow. And the way the game is going, I think a stat came out about game 2 of this Dallas and Utah series. The person that Rudy Gobert was guarding, which I believe was Maxi Kleber, I think he had 17 uncontested threes. 17 uncontested. For people that don't know what that means nobody is in the vicinity of you shooting a 3. He had that 17 times in a playoff game. Was it a game or series? Whatever it is, the man has shot 17 threes that Rudy Gobert is nowhere close to him. And it can't be one game. I think it's a series. That's crazy. Rudy Gobert is too slow to play the perimeter. He's an incredible and one of the best defensive players we've seen at the rim. You take him out the rim, it's barbecue chicken. It's crazy. So Utah has to blow it up, man. They have to blow it up because it's like we've seen their ceiling. To me, their ceiling was probably was it the bubble? What is their ceiling? Western Conference Finals? Even if they make it to the finals, let's just say they make it to the finals this year. I don't see them beating Miami. I don't see them beating Philly. I don't see them beating Milwaukee. I don't see them beating Boston. I don't see them beating Brooklyn. Well, I don't see them beating Brooklyn. Hell, I will shoot them some bail. I do not even see them beating Chicago. And you know how I feel about Chicago? So, yeah, man, I just think it's time, bro. It's time for Utah to wrap this up, bro. It's time to wrap it up for Utah because no, bro. You have to blow this up because you've seen the ceiling. Unless you like being a middle of the pack team. And when I say middle of the pack, you're good. You can win a series. You can win probably a series or two, but I don't see. Are they going to win a championship? No. They can be firing on all cylinders. Donovan Mitchell could be going crazy. Rudy Gobert can be blocking, average 6 blocks a game. I don't see them win championship. So, yeah. And lastly, for the NBA, you got Phoenix and the Pelicans. There's not much to say about this series. The Pelicans are outmatched. They're under 500 team. Even at their best, even with Zion, I don't see them even standing any type of chance against Phoenix. There's a reason why Phoenix is the number one team overall in the NBA this year. Chris Paul had like 30 points. Chris Paul is inarguably one of the greatest point guards of all time, and he just keeps showing it. The Pelicans have no shot. Good team. Brandon Ingram has been playing really well. CJ McCollum's been playing well. But they don't stand a chance. They don't stand a chance. And then you can kind of see it the first 2 games. They don't. DeAndre Ayton's been playing well. It's Devin Booker. So that's the NBA playoffs. At least breakdowns of the first few games of each round. So let's move on to football a little bit. So I didn't talk about this last episode because I kind of dedicated the whole episode to the whole NBA power ranking thing. But some news that came out last week was Kyler Murray apparently does not expect to play without a new contract. And you're starting to see this around the league, man. This is the player empowerment age. Terry McLaurin, he's not going to voluntary or optional or voluntary workouts. AJ Brown, Deebo Samuels. When you look at some of the deals that are being made, when you look at Devontae Adams deal, when you look at Christian Kirk deal, when you look at Tyreek Hill deal, even on the quarterback side, when you look at what what's his name, Deshaun Watson, like this is players want to get paid, and players know their worth. We know that there's no way in heaven or hell that the 49ers have a chance to win if they don't have Deebo Samuels. We know that A.J. Brown, especially after giving up Julio Jones, A.J. Brown is Tennessee's best wide receiver. Terry McLaurin is is Washington's best offensive player. They know their worth, and I understand that you're going to look at Kyler Murray and you're going to think, well, did you see last time we saw Kyler Murray? He looked terrible in the playoffs against the Rams, which I get that. You know, I understand that. And if I was a GM, if I was Kyler Murray's camp, I probably would have handled it a little differently. Because this also goes back to that pretty much wasn't the truth when he said, "Oh no, everything's cool with me." You know, because we've heard a lot of talk come out of the Cardinals camp this entire offseason, and then of course it's pretty much said, "Oh no, it's nothing. This is not true." Well, now it's looking like most of the stuff was true. But I say all that to say, man, look, Kyler Murray's gonna get paid. Terry McLaurin is gonna get paid. Deebo Samuel's, AJ Brown, they're gonna get paid. Now, are they going to get paid Devontae Adams numbers? Are they going to get paid Tyreek Hill numbers? Are they going to get paid Deshaun Watson numbers? No. But they're going to get paid because players are starting to know their worth. Yes, the NFL represents the shield and they always represent the teams. But, the Cardinals, you know how I know they're going to get paid? Because the Cardinals remember who the Cardinals were without Kyler Murray. And while he didn't have the best showing against the Rams in the playoffs, a team looks drastically different with or without Kyler Murray, especially when you see the available quarterbacks. The Washington Commanders. That's a name. The Washington Commanders look drastically different with or without Terry McLaurin. The 49ers look drastically different with or without Deebo Samuels. Now, I will say this. Kyler Murray's situation is a tad bit different from the A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuels, and Terry McLaurin, because all we've heard from the wide receiver side is they don't want to go to the voluntary camps. They're not saying they're going to sit out games. They're not saying they're not going to play the season if they don't get a new contract. They did say they want a contract, and they're just sitting out the voluntary workouts. What we're hearing from Kyle, or what the reports are coming from Kyler, is he don't expect to play, period, if he don't have a new contract. Now, yes, I think the Cardinals are kind of trapped. They're going to make a deal. And I think all the wide receivers are going to get paid. But this is the player empowerment year. I mean, not year. Player empowerment age. They're getting what they're worth. That's why you're saying Denzel Ward just got paid like the highest paid cornerback in league history. Denzel Ward, who is great. Don't get me wrong. Denzel Ward is an incredible defensive player and deserves all the money. But when you're seeing contracts like that get doled out, and you know that there's players better than Denzel Ward, and you think that you're better than Denzel Ward, or you think that you're better than Christian Kirk, like, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense. So, again, Kyler's going to get paid. All the receivers are going to get paid. I just think you're going to see this more and more, kind of like the transfer portal in college. You're going to see more and more players go to the transfer portal. You're going to see more and more players hold out because they feel that their current deal is not giving them what they think they're worth. So, and lastly, before we go, we just talked about deals, and they just paid. Derek Carr just signed a 3-year, I think a $121.5 million contract. They're showing you how a team will show you how they feel about you by the money that they give you. What the Vegas Raiders, is telling you is they not only view Derek Carr as a top 10 quarterback, they got him the pieces that they've always said, well, Derek Carr is a piece away. He's a wide receiver away. Well, you got arguably the top wide receiver in the league. You have an incredible running back in Josh Jacobs. We're giving you everything you need, and they think that they're good enough to win a Super Bowl. They don't pay you that much money if they don't think that you are the quarterback. Now, and I say all that to say, we've heard stories of, they're trying to get off Derek Carr. They want to trade Derek Carr. And people always say, well, Derek Carr is trash. Derek Carr is this. Derek Carr is that. They just paid Derek Carr a lot of money, bro. A lot of money. Meaning the Raiders think, especially, and it's also, not only do they think that he is a serviceable quarterback and he's deserving of the money, but you look at the market. Look at the quarterbacks available. You have Jimmy Garoppolo, who just has shoulder surgery, which is probably why he's not on a new team right now. Cam Newton, which he didn't really look good the last time we saw him in Carolina. Baker Mayfield. But I will be the first one to argue. I think that Derek Carr is better than Baker Mayfield, and I honestly don't think it's that close. Derek Carr has been great, and it's just he hasn't. I think what the Raiders. I think the Raiders look at what helped Derek Carr get this contract. Not only, of course, his play helped him get this extension, but seeing Matthew Stafford, and also looking at Carson Wentz really helped Derek Carr get this contract. And what do I mean by that? We saw what Carson Wentz. No, let's start with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's career was rotting in Detroit. He was putting up godly numbers, but it wasn't amounting to any wins. And people always said, if you put Matthew Stafford on a team that actually was a good team, he could flourish. Well, you put him on the Rams, they win a Super Bowl the first time. Meaning, if you, as a talented quarterback, if you put him on a team that has help around him, he could win you some games, and ultimately won the Rams the Super Bowl. On the flip side, what did we say? What has a lot of people said about Carson Wentz? If you pair him again, he saw most of his success with Frank Reich. If you pair him to get him out of Philly, because Philly is a dysfunctional organization right now, get him out of Philly, pair him next to Frank Reich, he will get back to the MVP caliber player that he was before the injury. You did that, and it didn't work. It didn't work so much that Frank Reich had to apologize to the GM. And now Carson Wentz is the quarterback for the Commanders. Meaning, it's more like it was more Carson than the organization. I said all that to say, you look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr has been through turmoil at the coach, turmoil at the front office. It seems like damn near every year a big play, a key player for him gets hurt. His offensive line is terrible. And they were a game away from making it to the playoffs. And honestly, if it wasn't for the blunder that happened with Staley in the Chargers, they would have made the playoffs. Actually, I'm sorry. If it wasn't for they went down to the wire against in the wild card against the Bengals, and it just didn't. Imagine if you had a number one receiver, because Hunter Renfrow was not number one receiver. So, shouts out to Derek Carr, man. You don't. And this is pretty much for everyone that gives Derek Carr a lot of crap and that says he's not a good quarterback. They pay him like he's a top 10 quarterback, meaning they think he's a top 10 quarterback. And when you look at the market, he's played his way to that money. So, and there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodies, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Whatever you want, I got you. Just click on the color, click on the design or shirt or whatever the item. Click on the color, click buy. I got you. Also, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.